Andariki namaskaramulu. Today is the 11th day of our classes on Sanatana Dharma of our 3 months certificate course on Sanatana Dharma. This is the third course going on. We are in the end of the second week of the course. And so far we have covered Vedas, Vedangas, Upanishads, and then we are on, of course, Dharma Shastras. After that, we are on Darshanas. Yesterday we had one class on Darshanas. Today we'll have another, and also on Monday. After that, we will go for Vimana Shastra and then Bhagavad Gita. After that, we'll have some classes on Puranas, Vastu, and then Panchangam, Vedic mathematics, Shodasa Samskaramulu, Ramayanam, Mahabharatam, and also some research topics connected with Sanatana Dharma. These are the topics that are going to be covered in the first 2 months. And also we are going to have some exams to refresh our learnings. The first one is going to be on 23rd. The 23rd or before that also there is one. I think there is on 13th or 14th. I think I announced as per schedule. Okay, now let us start our session with Vande Mataram by Challa Chittibabu Garu. After that, we'll chant Prarthana, then go for the webinar by Dr. CSR Prabhu Garu. Let us request Challa Chittibabu Garu.
Vande Mataram, Vande Mataram, Sujalam Sufalam, Malayaj Sitalam, Sasya Syamalam Mataram, Vande Mataram. Subrajyotsna pulakitayaminim Pullakusumita drumadala shobhinim Suhasinim Sumadhura bhashinim Sukhadam varadam mataram Vande mataram Vande Mataram.
Vande Mataram. We'll request Satyaji to chant Prarthana.
Namaskaram. Let's do meditation for 1 minute. Let's close our eyes, sit straight, and let's focus on the class for the next hour and a half. Gananam tva ganapatigum havamahe kavim kavinam upavashravastamam jyeshtarajam brahmanam ब्रह्मणस्पत आनशृण्वन्नोतिभिः सीदसादनम् ॐ श्रीमहागणाधिपतये नमः। ॐ प्रणो देवी सरस्वती वाजेभिर्वाजिनीवती धीनामवित्रवतु। ॐ श्रीमहासरस्वत्यै नमः। गुरुरेव गतिः गुरुमेव भजे गुरुणैव सहास्मि नमो गुरवे। न गुरोः परमं शशिरस्मि गुरोः मतिरस्ति गुरौ मम पाहि गुरो। ज्ञानानन्दमयं देवं निर्मलस्फटिकाकृतिम् आधारं सर्वविद्यानां हयग्रीवमुपास्महे। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पाद शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं। शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतो वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। मातृदेवो भव पितृदेवो भव आचार्यदेवो भव अतिथिदेवो भव। ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः ओम।
ధన్యవాదములండి. Okay, now let us request CSR Prabhu garu.
Friends, today we will be delving into the Darshana and VSS Darshana, and on Monday we will delve into Mimamsa and Veda. Yesterday we have delved into Sankhya and VSS, Sankhya and Yoga. We have already dwelt, and again we will go deep, delve into Yoga in the third month, one full month, both the theoretical and practical aspects. So now I will start with the Nyaya Darshana, which is the first part of the dual. This Nyaya and Vaiseshika, they go together. And here is my book on Vaiseshika Darshana. And this book I am following for Nyaya Darshana. So you can read these books, you can procure them. I have taken a long time to write this book. This is a book which is proof of advanced knowledge of science and physics in the ancient India and in Sanskrit text in the last 5,000 years. This is the first book which ever showed the physics part of it. All other books are not into this subject. They are into mathematics and various other subjects. As you know, our course is a scientific Sanatana Dharma course. So the entire Sanatana Dharma is based on science and logic. And science is there in Vaiseshika, the physics part of it. And the logic is there in Nyaya Darshana, which is the logic part of it. So, as you know, logic is the most fundamental instrument available for human mind. It is the law of mind. If you ask what is the law on which the mind operates, it is the logic on which it will operate. And logic is the foundation for mathematics. which is the foundation for all science and for all engineering. So Einstein said, but for Indians, there would have been no science or engineering progress because the decimal number system was the contribution of India along with the contribution of zero itself. So this whole superstructure of mathematics, which we have all studied in our schools and colleges, is based on the fundamental foundation of logic. The foundation is logic, which is a methodology of establishing valid knowledge through an analysis of truth and falsehood. So a statement, a proposition made by anybody can be either true or false. It cannot be both. So any statement can be proved to be true or it can be proved to be false. This is called propositional logic. Proposition is a statement. Pratijna. So that statement can be proved to be false or can be proved to be true. So accordingly, the knowledge which is represented by that statement will be accepted as valid or invalid. So that is what is called pramana. Pramana means proof. So this Nyaya Shastra, Nyaya Darshana is called Pramana Shastra. That is, what is proof and what are different methodologies of proof and what are the different types of proof. So this is what is discussed here, because if you want to acquire valid knowledge, it is required to have proof. So that is why it is called Pramana. And the person who is performing that analysis of getting proof is called Pramata, and the object on which that logic is applied, the target, is called Prameya. So Prameya means the object on which the logic is applied. Suppose you apply logic on physical objects, then the Prameya is physical objects like all the mechanical items in this universe. And that is how the laws of physics come into existence, by applying logic onto the physical observations. If you apply logic onto chemical observations, chemistry comes up. If you apply logic to something else, botany, then botany comes. I mean, botanical, that is plants, botany comes up. So you apply logic to animals, zoology comes out. If you apply logic to money matters, economics comes out. So as you see, everywhere logic is being applied, and that is the fundamental methodology process to acquire valid knowledge. This is also known as epistemology. Epistemology means the process of acquiring knowledge. There is a power cut here. You may not be able to see me properly. Let us wait for the power to come back. Till then, I will talk like this one. Can you hear me, all of you?
Yeah, we are able to
Yes,
hear.
yes, we hear you.
Okay. So the epistemology of valid knowledge comes from the Nyaya Darshana, Nyaya Shastra. So which starts with the discussion of what is proof and how many types of proof are there. So now you might have understood by now the distinction between Sanatana Dharma, Hinduism on one hand, and the other religions who don't believe in proof or in logic or in argument. So they just want you to believe something blindly, and if you don't believe either in the dogma or in the historical narrative or on the personality identification narrative of their religion, they will say you are performing blasphemy. And according to blasphemy laws in the constitution, you will be punished. Blasphemy laws exist in all the constitutions of the world. Sometimes they are very severe. Like in Pakistan, if you perform blasphemy, you will be killed. First you will be jailed, then you will be killed. In Saudi Arabia, if you perform blasphemy, you will be killed. So this is the kind of methodology these religions adopt. I don't have to tell you the names of those religions. You know very well. So either they will make laws to kill people out of blasphemy, or they will put people into jail, or they will conduct a war and they will destroy that particular civilization or colonize them. The entire thing is based for colonization. Either it is a Roman colonization or the Arabic colonization. So now this is a totally opposite situation in India. In India, the freedom of thought is given. In fact, anybody can go and question anything. Even in front of a temple, people go and question. So the ability to question comes only from the ability to ask for proof. Whether something is true or not, the proof is required. So this proof can be either by direct observation, which is the pratyaksha pramana, that is the most powerful and obvious and well-known, valid proof of knowledge. That is, seeing is believing. You see something, or you hear something, or you touch something, or you measure something. So when you are able to measure, observe and measure, then it is pratyaksha pramana. So the whole of science is based on pratyaksha pramana, followed by anumana pramana, which is inference. After you observe, after you measure, you perform certain analysis or mathematics or whatever procedures, logical procedures, and you come to a conclusion. Like, for example, you have observed there is smoke coming out of some forest. Though you have not actually observed the fire because you are at a far off distance, you are able to observe the smoke even though you are far off. Then you can infer that there was fire, there is fire. Right now, there is fire, and that's why smoke is coming. So this is called anumana pramana. So pratyaksha, aksha means eye, pratyaksha means in front of the eye. It need not be only eye, it can be ear also, it can be touch also, it can be smell also, all the panchendriyas, and it can be measurement also. So anumana inference, it can be just a common sense inference, or it can be a mathematical analysis, big theoretical analysis. We have the relativity theory and we have the quantum theory. So based on this, there may be the analysis can be made and the conclusion, inference can be drawn. So now the important point is that the proof out of inference is also valid, and it may be based upon the observation, pratyaksha, as we see happening in science, entire science. Therefore, in the ancient times, they have adopted these methods to acquire the knowledge of real world science, and therefore all our texts are scientific. They are not blind belief based, which refuse proof and which threaten to punish you if you ask for proof. So this is the main distinction between Sanatana Dharma and other faiths. Now there are many pramanas. So first is pratyaksha, second is anumana or inference. Third is anumana in Telugu means something else, doubt. That's not the meaning here. In Sanskrit, anumana means inference, not doubt. Sandigdha or sandeha is doubt in Sanskritam. Anumana, pratyaksha, anumana, and third is shabda pramana or aptavakya or agama. It all three names are same. You can say shabda pramana, or you can say agama, or you can say aptavakya. That is for those topics where pratyaksha and anumana are not possible to be applied. You will be forced to go by the shabda pramana or aptavakya or agama. That means what has come as general knowledge, referential knowledge, or a well-wisher's testimony. Aptavakya means a testimony given by a well-wisher. Apta is a well-wisher. And he is not going to cheat you or he is not going to tell lies. He is making a testimony which you can concede, like your father or mother or wife or son or brother or sister. Somebody makes a testimony, then you can concede, you can accept that because he is your well-wisher and he is not going to tell you lies. At least with his knowledge, he may not tell lies. And the aspect of aptavakya or shabda is required only when the topic is such that the pratyaksha and anumana fail. Like, for example, if you have a topic of existence of God, whether God exists or not. or whether soul exists or not after death, whether transmigration, reincarnation exists or not. You really don't know, and you cannot observe with your any of the instruments which you have, like eyes and ears and nose, and you cannot infer also because there is no observation in the first place. Without observation, you cannot make any inference also. So therefore, we have to go by the Shabda Pramana only on those topics. And what is important to note is that the Pratyaksha and Anumana have their own limitations. Suppose, for example, if you observe the moon, when you observe the moon, it appears of poppet size. So now we are a small child will think moon is only of poppet size. In fact, there is a story, I think in Ramayana or somewhere, where Rama is asking as a small boy that the moon be given to him. So how the moon can be brought to him? So finally they gave him a mirror, and in the mirror he saw the moon in his hand, and he was satisfied that moon has come to his hand. So Pratyaksha Anumana for a child are as foolish as any other stupid inference. Therefore, the true knowledge is not in Pratyaksha and Anumana always. It is sometimes required to go by the Shabda Pramana, because the older people, adults, know that moon is not of poppet size and moon cannot be brought into the hand of the child. So now we know that moon is a small, it is a satellite of Earth, and it is a subplanet kind of thing. It's not a planet, and it is vast. It is thousands and thousands of miles. So this fact is not known either by Pratyaksha or Anumana of a child, and it will be known by Aptavakya of the parent. But how the parent came to know? Either he has to have gone to moon and himself seen it, or he must have read it in newspapers or photos to make that inference. So only inference, like for example, an atom has never been seen by anybody. Now electron microscopes can show some atoms, otherwise nobody can see the atom. And even today electron cannot be seen, but it is inferred. So now I will go into the sutras. Now power has come back. You are able to see me, right?
Right.
Now this, yes.
You're able
So
to see.
now these Nyaya Sutras are authored by Gautama. He is known as Gautama or Gautama. He is the same person on whose name Godavari got the name Gautami. But he was from Bihar. There is a city in Bihar where he was born. It is well known. And he shifted to Andhra, and he lived there, and he was responsible partly for the Godavari flow. That's why he's known as Gautami. Godavari is known as Gautami. Now the first sutra of Nyaya Sutras, we do our pranam to Gautama Rishi, and he is the father of logic, the Nyaya Darshana. Of course, as I told you yesterday also, all the Sutrakaras like Patanjali or Kapila or Gautama are not the originators of that subject. They are only Sutrakaras. They created the Sutra system to give a comprehensive view of the entire subject, which was already existing before them in the Vedas. So I had to make it very clear to you now that the knowledge in the Vedas is being taken out as a single perspective, single thread perspective, one particular view perspective of a particular topic, and that is how the Darshanas are created. Not that these people have created this entire subject knowledge. It is already there in the Vedas, in the world. Basically, knowledge is in two types, Vaidika and Laukika. It is already there in the Veda. It is Vaidika, and Laukika is outside Veda. So they have acquired both these understandings and presented a perspective that's called Darshana in the sutras, and their great Sutrakaras are very great people. Like in the case of Vedanta, it is Badarayana who wrote the Brahma Sutras, and the Shankaracharya wrote the commentary. So we had a prayer shloka just now. Sutra Bhashya Karo Vande. One is Shiva, other is Vishnu. One is Vishnu, other is Shiva. Vyasa is Vishnu, Shankara is Shiva. So they are complementing each other. First they write the sutra, then they write the commentary. So the Sutrakaras are as great as Vyasa or Kapila and Patanjali and Gautama and Jaimini. They are not ordinary people. They are extraordinary stalwarts who had the capability to summarize the entire subject knowledge of that subject before them in the Vedas and outside Vedas also, and present it in a sutra collection. Sutra is a shortest form, most efficient form of expressing particular knowledge. Now I will read the first sutra of the Nyaya Sutras. Pramana, Prameya, Samshaya, Prayojana, Drishtanta, Siddhanta, Avayava, Tarka, Nirnaya, Vada, Jalpa, Vitanda, Hetu, Abhasa, Chala, Jati, Nigrhasya, Nanam, that is about all this. Tatvajnana, Nishreyasa, Adhigamaha. Why do we require these subjects? As I told you in the beginning itself on the first day, all the darshanas are aiming at moksha, nishrayasa. So to acquire nishrayasa, the highest good, nihi shreyas. Shreyas is good, nihi is the highest. Nishrayasa or moksha is the objective of every darshana. So for Nyaya Darshana, he says by getting the Tattvajnana, the thorough understanding, the full knowledge of what is Pramana, what is Prameya, what is Samshaya, what is Prayojana, what is Drishtanta, what is Siddhanta, what is Avayava, what is Tarka, what is Nirnaya, what is Vada, what is Jalpa, what is Vitanda, what is Hetva Bhasa, what is Chala. And so by understanding all these different functionalities of logical analysis, you will be able to acquire moksha. That means liberation. So similarly in Vaiseshika also, he has told by the thorough understanding of the material activities, material science, you will get moksha. That is physics. We will come to that after this, if time permits. Otherwise, we will take it up on Monday. Dukkha, Janma, Jati, Dosha, Mithya Jnananam, Uttarottara Apaye, Tadanantara Apaya, Apavargaha. So what is moksha? Moksha is release from dukkha, from misery in this life, and Janma, not to be born again, because it is a big threat. Death is for sure, and birth is also for sure after death. Jatasya dhruvam mrityu, dhruvam janma mritasya cha. So a sword is hanging in front of you. You may die any minute, and you will be born again. So when you are born again, there will be misery starting once again. So dukkha, janma, pravritti, dosha, mithya jnananam, uttarotarapaye. That is mithya jnana, and also while we are alive, we are deluded by false knowledge. So tadantara apaya apavargaha, vargaha apavargaha. That is, varga is three. Dharma, artha, kamas are varga. Moksha is apavarga. So to get moksha is defined as liberation. Freedom is defined as liberation, freedom from dukkha in this life, janma in next life, pravritti, dosha, mithya jnana, all these things, all negative functions to transcend is known as moksha. He has defined moksha also very beautifully here. And other darshanas, they have not defined always. Pratyaksha anumana upamana shabdaha pramanani. So pramanas are only this. So now in the beginning, in the first sutra, he talked of pramana as a first topic. So according to Nyaya, pratyaksha anumana upamana shabda 4. We have seen yesterday on the yoga darshana that there are only 3 pramanas: pratyaksha, anumana, and agama. Here the 4th is also added, that is upamana. Upamana is comparison. Now I have already discussed adequately about pratyaksha, anumana, and agama or shabda. We will discuss a little bit about upamana, because sometimes you may neither be able to observe, nor you are able to infer, nor you are able to go for referential knowledge, but you can use upamana. How is it? Sometimes we say this baby is like this particular father, or this baby is like this particular mother. This is upamana. And if you want to impress your wife or any other lady, you tell her that her face is like moon, Chandramukhi. So of course, without telling that moon has craters in it, if you tell that your face also has craters, that person will get angry. So if you simply compare the color and shape, Chandramukhi, then you'll be very happy. That is Upamana Alankara. So apart from Alankaras, Pramanas also Upamana exists. In Alankaras, we have Upamana, Utpreksha, Atishayokti. You know all this, right? So Pratyaksha, Anumana, Upamana, Shabda, Pramana. Nyaya Shastra accepted 4 Pramanas. Indriyardha Sannikarshai Utpannam Jnanam. What is Pratyaksham? Pratyaksham is knowledge which is acquired through the contact of an object with the senses. Indriyardha Sannikarsha Utpannam Jnanam Avyapadeshyam Avyabhichari Vyaktayatmakam Pratyaksham, non-contaminated Avyabhicharam Avyapadeshyam Vyaktas Atmakam. It is expressible, conveyable knowledge which is acquired through this mechanism of contact of the senses with outside world. It is called Pratyaksha Pramana. You see how rigorously the definitions are being given for each and every word. Atha tatpurvakam trividham anumanam. Anumana is of 3 types. Purvatrodbheshutva samanyata adishtam cha. Now I will not go into the 3 types of Anumana. It will be more longer. Now we go to Upamanam. Prasiddha sadharnyat satcha vachakam upamanam. So similarity is Upaman. Aptopadesha shabdaha. I already discussed this. Sad vividho drushta drushta. Shabda is also of 2 types. We will not go into those details. Atma sharirendriyardha buddhi mana pravritti dosha pretya bhava phala dukkha pavargastu praveyam. The objects can be Atma, Sharira, Indriya, Ardha, Indriyardhas, that is physical objects, Buddhi, Mana, Pravritti, thought process, Doshas, Pretya Bhavakas, and Dukkha, Patra, Apavargastu, Praveya. And Moksha also can be a, which is Apavarga, is a Praveya, that is object of Pramana. Ichhadvesha Prayatna Sukha Dukkha Jnanani Atmanolingam. So, whether Atma exists or not, even in Vaiseshika this has been explained. It is only by the characteristics of Ichha, Dvesha, that desire, hatred, Prayatna, Sukha Dukkha Jnana. Cheshthendriyardha Shariram. Body is characterized by actions of the organs. Grana rasana chakshu vakshotrani indriyani. What are senses? 5 senses. Prithivyapastejo vayurakashamiti bhutani. What are the bhutas, panchabhutas, which the Sankhya has taken up? What is important to realize is that in Sankhya, the panchabhutas are only recognized or accepted on the basis of pancha tanmatras, as they arise in the mind, the sensations from 5 senses, creating their impulses in the mind, tanmatras. Only that much validity is given to the external world. And here, at least, the bhutas are being accepted as not necessarily only mental sensations. They exist as panchabhutas, Prithvi, Apas, Tejo, Vayu, Akash. Now, in the Vaiseshika, they are accepted as dravyas, that is substances in the external world, because Vaiseshika is physics. Gandharasa, Ruparasa, Rupa, Sparsha, Shabdaha, Prithivyadi, Gunaha, Tadartha. So, Ruparasa, that is, color, form, shape, and smell, etc. are the 5 meanings or mechanisms or instruments for those Panchabhutas. So Panchabhutas are getting defined due to the 5 sensations, Panchendriya sensations. Buddhi, Upalabdhi Jnanamitti, Anardhantaram. So Buddhi also is accepted by the characteristic of deductive knowledge being acquired. Observing through senses, analyzing through mind, and performing deduction or inference through buddhi. We see happening, we all do it. Therefore, buddhi is also accepted as real, having these characteristics. The word lingam here means an indicative proof. It does not mean a penis. So Shivalingam does not mean penis, as many of the Westerners try to misinterpret. It means an indicative proof. Similarly, Stri Lingam, indicative proof of Stri. Purusha Lingam, Pullingam, indicative proof of Purusha. Similarly, any other Lingam, Shiva Linga means indicative proof of Shiva. It is not anything else. So Lingam is used both in Nyaya and Vaiseshika to mean an indicative characteristic or proof. Yugapadnyanam Anutpattihi Manaso Lingam, the existence of Manas. You can have proof, you know that man exists. Pravrittihi Shabdivadi Sharirasma iti Pravakte Sa Lakshana Dosha. So it will go on like this. What is Dukkham? Badhana. Lakshanam Dukkham. What is Dukkham? I mean, normally we don't have to define what is misery, but he's telling that also. That which is irritating you, which is pesting, like a pest is, you are getting pested by you. You are getting pested by you, then that is called dukkham, badha. Badhana lakshanam dukkham. And what is phalam? Pravritti dosha jadintyo ardha phalam tadantavivakshah. Apavargaha. What is apavarga? What is moksha? The cessation of dukkham. Tadapi anta vimoksha apavargaha. The vishesha moksha, that is excessive freedom from badha, from dukkham, is called moksha. So this way he goes on defining. And then what is siddhanta? Tantriga tantradhikara upagama samsthiti siddhanta sarvatantra pratitantra adhikarana. Now he defines vada, he defines jalpa. These are all different types of arguments and different types of conclusions. So in the ancient times, the Nyaya Darshana was a fundamental subject in the study of all the Gurukulas, and even today in the Gurukulas which are being operated by Sringeri Shankarmat or Kanchi Shankarmat, they study Nyaya Darshana, Nyaya Sutras of Gautama. And then Annam Bhatta, Tarka Sangraha is also there. Some people may be, of you may be aware of it. He is a Telugu man. Annam Bhatta is a Telugu man. He wrote a book called Tarka Sangraha, where he has summarized both Nyaya and Vaiseshika. Now I'll switch over to Vaiseshika. So, of course, we can have a separate webinar on some Saturday or Saturday on Vaiseshika Darshana of my book. I spent about 20 years in writing this book, and the Vedic University in Tirupati took 5 years to publish this book. I will read out the introduction alone. Of course, I am honored to have the foreword written by none other than Professor Subhash Kak, the #1 professor of Sanskrit and science in the world. He is also in the advisory committee of the central government. He is a professor he is a Kashmiri Brahmin professor at one of the universities in the United States. He wrote the foreword. So the foreword is very tough. My introduction is easier. I'll read the introduction and then I'll cover some of the sutras. Vaiseshika of Kannada, one of the 6 schools of Indian philosophical thought, the other being Sankhya, Yoga, Nyaya, Purvamimamsa and Uttamimamsa, concerns itself with the physical reality. It deals with the characteristics of physical entities, their properties, their interactions, including forces, and motions of various types. Vaiseshika is called Padartha Shastra, or the science of substances or material entities. It concerns itself with the modeling of the physical world in terms of its of fundamental physical entities, physical behavior, finally culminating in the atomic theory of Kanada to explain the structure of the universe. As basic physics or classical physics or the prehistoric classical physics, Vaiseshika formed the foundation of ancient applied sciences such as Ayurveda. Ayurveda openly, explicitly gives its due respect and reference to Vaiseshika, and Shilpa Shastra, which is engineering. So without physics, there cannot be engineering and there cannot be medicine. Because physics is the basis for chemistry and chemistry is the basis for pharmacology. Modern science or Western science, originating in Europe during 17th century, comprises many branches. And of course, you all know what has driven the revival of knowledge in Europe. The money squeezed out of India was used to establish the Industrial Revolution and the Scientific Revolution in 17th century, 18th century. Among the large number of branches of sciences, physics is commonly identified as the most exact. I have also studied physics for many years. Physics is the study of physical world in all its forms and manifestations. I'm sure most of you, almost all of you have studied physics. The quantitative aspects of the physical world are expressed in mathematical form, thereby enabling physics to describe the physical phenomena in the most exact manner. Physics is the most exact of all sciences. Physics is the only science which is expressed precisely in advanced mathematics. It is not so in the case of chemistry, it's not so in the case of botany, zoology, and least of all in political science or social science. They are also called sciences. Physics deals with the most fundamental entities of the physical world. What are the fundamental entities of the physical world? In the classical physics, there are four fundamental entities: matter, energy, space, and time. Of course, in the modern physics or the atomic physics, space and time are shown to be relative. They don't exist exactly. According to the special theory of relativity of Einstein, only matter and energy exist, and they are also interconverted. So the formula of E is equal to mc square proves that matter is converted to energy is converted to matter. And space and time are absolute, they don't have existence. But in the classical physics, all the four have. All sciences concern themselves with the physical world, whose building blocks, that is molecules, atoms, particles, are the subject of physics. Thus, physics is the most fundamental and exact of all sciences and comprehensive, foundational in all modern science. Physics has two parts, the classical physics and the modern physics. In the present context, we are only concerned with classical physics, except for one feature, which is the observer self. All other things are classical physics discussed in the Vaiseshika. While the Vedas contain knowledge of all subjects, Vaiseshika is a branch of knowledge of the Veda corresponding to the physical world in the ancient times. Vaiseshika Darshana is the oldest known text. Vaiseshika Darshana is the oldest known text of a science which deals with the physical world. If you ask, how old is physics? In the Western world, it is not older than a few centuries. But Vaiseshika Darshana, which is going into several thousands of years of antiquity, around 3000 BC and so on, is the oldest text of science. In other words, physics, because it is a science dealing with physical world. It is called physics. Physics is a science of physical world of the modern times, and Vaiseshika Darshana is the science of the physical world of the ancient times. So that is why I kept the title of this book as the Physics of Vaiseshika. Both physics and Vaiseshika Darshana have a single common interest, that is the physical world. They converge on the physical world. The constituent entities of the physical world, their qualities. Physical world means what it comprises of, and what are their properties and what are their interactions, including forces and motions. These are the subjects of common interest to both physics and also the Vaiseshika Sutras or Vaiseshika Darshan, both. So the title of the book, Physics of Vaiseshika, indicates that this book covers itself with those aspects of Vaiseshika which are concerned with the science of physical world, that is physics, not everything else. As the first step in the development of any science is the identification of fundamental categories. Now, before I go further, there are many books on Vaiseshika Darshana written by philosophers. I am sorry to say that none of them gave a physics interpretation. In fact, I was told not to go deep and believe all those books. They gave a philosophical interpretation, which is having its own limitation. As the first step in the development of any science is the identification of the fundamental categories. What are the fundamental categories? So, Vaiseshika Sutras of Kannada model the physical reality in terms of its 6 fundamental categories. Dravya are the substances, gunas are the properties, karma is motions. Karma in Vaiseshika means motion, not prarabdha karma created. And samanya, that is generalization hierarchy, and visesha, specialization hierarchy. The word Vaiseshika comes from visesha. Visesha means specialization hierarchy. It's an abstraction. It's used in computer science play in a big way. Samavaya, inherence. So these 6 padarthas, Shat padarthas, and abhava or nothingness was added later as 7th padartha, and even extended further up to 10 by other Vaiseshika scholars. But Kannada is the first. Thus, the physics of Vaiseshika, this book brings out the physics in Vaiseshika Darshana. Among 10 chapters of Vaiseshika Darshana, only first 5, which are dealing with the subject of interest of physics, are covered in this book, word-to-word translation and commentary. And at the 5th chapter, we stop at a point where the discussion relating to the phenomena of the physical world would end. And in the balance 5 chapters, only the summaries, important points have been added in this book, because those text chapters, other than these points, are not dealing with physical entities, but they are dealing with something else, philosophical matters. So in 5 chapters, Vaiseshika's view of the physical world is brought out clearly. It comprises the fundamental entities, matter, energy, space, time, their interactions through various forces, gravitation, electricity, magnetism, various types of motion in various states of matter, solid, liquid, and gas. Vaiseshika models the physical world in terms of the eternal atoms as the ultimate building blocks of the universe, the atomic theory, which continued as it is up to 20th century. I'm sorry, up to 18th century, till John Dalton came out with atomic theory. John Dalton's atomic theory is not his own theory. It was already existing from Greeks as Demetrius' atomic theory. And before Demetrius, it is Kannada's Vaiseshika atomic theory. And Greeks have taken it from India. While the historians of sciences are generally unaware of the contribution of ancient India to physics, except this book, there is no other book which deals with physics in Sanskrit. Historically, for 5,000 years, historically, Vaiseshika was merged quite unfairly, Anyaya, with Nyaya. Now we have seen these 2 different topics, Nyaya and Vaiseshika, but they are connected. But there is a big Anyaya performed that Vaiseshika was swallowed into Nyaya. It so happened that people started interpreting Vaiseshika as part of Nyaya. Even Annam Bhatta's Tarkasangraha interprets Vaiseshika as part of Nyaya. It's not true. It is like saying physics is part of mathematics. Is it true? Mathematics can exist without physics, but physics requires mathematics. That does not mean physics does not exist. In the same way, Vaiseshika is having its own right, and very unfairly it was merged with Nyaya, where it is true that they both together have a lot in common. Vaiseshika, the science of physical world or physics itself of the ancient world, has its own independent and exclusive status, which had been sometimes denied by the logicians, especially of the Middle Ages. while Nyaya concerns itself with epistemology of the also the acquisition of the valid knowledge, Vaiseshika concerns itself with the ontological aspects of the constituents of the universe itself. So as I've already explained to you now, Nyaya concerns itself only with Pramanas and not with the Prameya structure of the universe, whereas Vaiseshika deals with the structure of the universe, the ontology, the categories of composition of the universe, and it uses Nyaya Pramanas for its experiments and discussions. Sankhya also deals with the fundamental categories as they arise in the space of mind. As I told you, it admits only as they arise in the space of mind, and therefore has some correspondence with Vaiseshika. And the difference between Sankhya and Vaiseshika is Sankhya does not recognize the external world, dravyas, whereas Vaiseshika recognizes. So while the Vaiseshika Sutras of Kannada are of very great antiquity of a period of very remote time belonging to post-Vedic but pre-Puranic age, what is usually known as the Sutra period. It's extant commentaries, that means commentaries which are still available, belong to a period of recent origin, in the last 2000 years only. Even though the time period of Kannada's Vaiseshika Sutras is not known with certainty, a Chinese tradition describes Kannada of being of great antiquity of at least a millennium before Buddha. That means what? Normally, the old date of Buddha is 500 BC, but now the new date of Buddha is 1900 BC. So at least 1000 years before Buddha is the date of Kannada, given by evidence of a Chinese tradition. China and India are one and the same. China is a cultural colony of India. They have translated all Sanskrit texts into Chinese under the orders of the Chinese emperors, and they have taken thousands and thousands. Like Yuan Sang himself, Hua Hui and Yuan Sang, they have taken 10,000 Shastras from India to China and translated. So sometimes we have more available in China than in India. Because in India, the loot took place after that. The Britishers and Germans have also taken manuscripts from India, whereas in China, nobody has taken from there. They have been, so what they consider as Chinese knowledge is nothing but our ancient Sanskrit text knowledge. Unfortunately, the series of successive commentaries of the earlier periods are not available to us anymore. There was a large time interval, original Vaiseshika Sutras of Kannada and commentaries starting with the Prashastapada. The first commentary or well-known commentary is by Prashastapada, who is dated around 5th century AD. So you can see from 3000 BC to 5th century AD is a huge gap of available commentaries which are available today. There must have been commentaries before that. And while we lost most of the early commentaries, one Katandi by and one Vritti by Bharadwaja and one commentary by Ravana himself. Whether same Ravana or another Ravana, we don't know. It may not be same Ravana. The earliest text we have with us today is Prashastapada's own text known as Padartha Darshana Sangraha. So I have based myself on that text. This text is not exactly a commentary to the Vaiseshika Sutras of Kannada, but it has its own independent status as a respectable text on Vaiseshika, the significant amount of Puranic orientation and related content. Prashastapada also wrote a different text which was known as actual commentary to the Vaiseshika Sutras, known as Bhashya or Vakya or Tika, which is not available today to us. Therefore, we are forced to depend upon the existing text Padartha Dharma Sangraha by Prashastapada, which is what I depend upon for my authorship of this book also. After Prashastapada, the commentaries on Vaiseshika are found from the more recent periods of time within 1000 years. The Kiranavali of King Udayana, 11th century AD, is a commentary to Prashastapada's work, and Upaskara of Shankara Mishra of early 15th century AD is a commentary to Vaiseshika Sutras with a heavy dependence on Prashastapada. I have studied all these books, and Atreya wrote a Bhashya to Vaiseshika Sutras, where the critique was given by Vadiraja, a great Madhva saint. Most of it, if not all the works, and even references to Vaiseshika are traceable to scholars of Nyaya. All the Vaiseshika scholars were Nyaya scholars. Prominent of them being Prabhakara, Bhatta, Jayadatta, Annambhatta, Pallavadi, Murar Mishra, Chakravadi, Simhasuri, Srivallabha, Raghunatha, Raghuvarma, Jayarama, Veni Datta, and Ujjotaka. Some of them had access to some of the lost ancient commentaries, such as Katandi and Vakya. For example, Udayana refers to in his own Kirnavali to a Vaiseshika Bhashya as being very extensive, and the same is ascribed to Ravana, not the original Ravana, another by Panchanan Mishra of 16th century in his Kirnavali Bhashya. So none of the commentaries post Prasisthapada attempted a physics-based interpretation of Vaiseshika. That is the important point. For 5,000 years, none of the commentaries post Prasisthapada Prasisthapada gave partly physical interpretation, but all others, and even before him, they didn't give a physical interpretation, they gave a logical interpretation. And therefore they were deviating from the original physical nature of the Vaiseshika Darshan. They were too clouded and dominated by Nyaya logic. And Prasisthapada, who is the oldest of the commentaries available today, is held with high regard as the first known commentator next to Bharadwaja and Ravana, who wrote Pradartha Darshana Sangraha, which is available and is considered as a standard reference text on Vaiseshika. And Dashapadartha Shastra of Chandramalti was also an ancient text of Vaiseshika and was also translated to Chinese by Yuan-Sang during 648 AD. So thus the origins of physics can be traced back to the Vaiseshika Sutras of Kannada of very great antiquity of several millennium before Christ BC, and also later to Padartha Dharma Sangraha of Prasisthapada. All the other available commentaries, including the Upaskara of Shankar Mishra of 15th century, Setu of Padmanabha Mishra of 16th century, all these are based on Nyaya only. So much so that Professor Piali Palit of Jadavpur University advised me not to get lost into the Nyaya interpretations given in these texts and therefore cloud my own understanding of the physical interpretation, physical understanding of this. Therefore, I have given my own original physical interpretation to the Vaiseshika Sutras. And after reading this book, and we have also a research project on this book, you can come out with any questions or research ideas. Of course, now I will touch upon the unitary view of the physical reality. The Indian philosophical models of physical reality went much beyond the perspective of classical physics. Advaita, based on the Upanishads, presents a unitary view of the physical reality. According to the Advaita, Brahman, or the unknowable absolute reality, is the essence of existence, whose apparent manifestation is the multifarious universe, the world of Maya. In quantum mechanics, the nature of the physical world is expressed by Schrodinger's wave equation, which is described to be the expression of Maya by Schrödinger himself, who made that explanation. The relativity of space and time, as expressed in Indian philosophical system, can be shown as parallel thought to the theory of relativity of Einstein. The classical physics model of four fundamental entities of matter, energy, space, and time gets fundamentally transformed in the modern physics to the context of relativity theory. Space and time do not have absolute existence. They all are related to the observer. When the observer travels at velocity of light, both space and time become zero or non-existence. Thus, they do not have absolute existence. Thus, we have to deduct that the final absolute fundamental entity is only two, matter and energy. And matter and energy were considered independent in classical physics, but became interconvertible and philosophically single in modern physics and relativity. The theory with famous equation of Einstein E is equal to mc square. The equation demonstrates the unitary, interconvertible nature of matter and energy. Thus, we ask the question, what is the final one single fundamental absolute reality? The answer could be the one which became many with all forms of matter and all forms of energy. This one, which was explained as Brahman in Advaita Vedanta of the Upanishads. The parallelism between one Brahman of Upanishads, which manifests in the universe as one absolute reality, which manifests as all forms of matter and all forms of energy in universe, cannot be missed. In a way, the same truth is expressed by both schools of thought, Advaita and modern physics. The Vaiseshika Sutras of Kannada, this unity comes out as Sat, equivalent of Brahman in Vedanta, which is the essence of all existence. Sat akaranavat nityam, there is one sutra. Sat, knowing Sat results in liberation or moksha or nishresa. the observer of the modern physics. In quantum physics, we have an observer concept, who is also recognized as consciousness, which is identified as Atman or self in Vaisheshika. So in this book, an attempt has been made to unearth and demonstrate the evidence of awareness and knowledge of the basic principles of physics, including atomic theory, in the Vaisheshika Sutras of Kannada, whose antiquity is unassailable and is well known to have large precedence over the Western sources of physics, including the recent sources of 18th century and the classical sources of the Greek nature of 4th century BC. So this Vaisheshika Sutras is thousands of years before even the Greek science. So it is hoped that this endeavor will enable a better assessment and appreciation of the hallowed traditions of ancient Indian science. So this is my introduction to my book. I will cover a few sutras and close for today. Adhato dharma vyakhyasyaamaha. Now we will discuss dharma. Yato abhyudaya nishreyasa siddhis dharma. What is dharma? Dharma is that which produces abhyudaya and nishreyasa both. Nishreyasa is moksha, highest good. Abhyudaya is material progress, welfare. Tadvachanadamna yasya pramanyam. Being dharma vachana, Veda becomes pramanyam. Veda pramanyata comes out of its being dharma vachana. Dharma is proclaimed by the Veda. Dharma vishesha prasudat samanya vishesha samayanam padardhanam sadharmya vaidharmya dravya guna karma samanya visheshanam padardhanam sadharmya vaidharmya tattvajnanad nishreyasam. This is the fourth sutra. Dharma vishesha prasutat dravya guna karma samanya vishesha samavayanam padardhanam sadharmya vaidharmyabhyam tattvajnanad nishreyasam. You will get moksha by the tattvajnana of the generalized and specialized characteristics and properties of substances and their own properties and their motions. Dravya guna karma. Born out of dharma. Special process of dharma. Prithivyapastejo vayurakasha dikkalmana atma iti dravyani. What are dravyas? Prithvi, apa, tejo, vayu, akasha. And these are the Panchabhutas we know already, but here they are expressed as dravyas, material substances, and also dik, directional space. There are two things. One is the Cartesian space, and another is ether, akasha. That is, akasha is ether, and Cartesian directional space or Cartesian space is dik, and then kala, and then manas and atma. So observer is made up of atma and manas. So these are some of the first sutras. Then I will go into he defines very formally what are gunas, what is a motion, utkshepanam, vakshepanam, akunjalam, prasaranam, gamanam. These are the karma. What are karmas? Utkshepanam, upward motion, downward motion, contraction, expansion, transmission, and general motion. And general motion is defined, expanded by Prashasthapada as rechana, spotana, spandana, beat, expulsion, explosion, unmara, and even the movement of the eyelids or heartbeat or any other motion, vibrations like in a quartz crystal. All these are different types of motion. Gamana Visesha. That's what Prashasthapada said. So now that we don't have much time, I'll skip and go into the last chapter, which is 5th chapter in my book. Of course, there are totally 10 chapters. This last chapter, he has given the motion. Atma samyoga prayatna bhyam haste karma. So by prayatna, the conjunction of self by effort, my hand will move. Haste karma. And if there is a stone, like this is a stone, if I hit this stone, what will happen? He is explaining. Tadha hasta samyogacha musale karma. Musala says stone. So I am hitting stone, then stone also moves forward. Adhigataje musalado karma hasta samyoga. Tadha atma samyoge hasta karmani. Adhigatat musala samyogat haste karma. Now you see what he is saying. Because of adhigata of hasta samyoga with musala, there is motion in hasta also. Reaction is talking about. having talked about the motion in the Musala. So this is the third law of Newton. Atma karmahasya samyogacha samyoga bhave gurutvat patanam. Suppose I have this, there is a samyoga of my hand on a stone or object. If there is no samyoga, it will fall down, a free fall, which is gurutvat patanam. Samyoga bhave gurutvat patanam. So he knew that there will be fall, free fall due to gurutva. What is gurutva? Gurutva is gravity. The word gravity itself is distorted to the word gurutva. Samyoga bhave gurutvat patanam nodana vishesha. Nodana vishesha, nodana vishesha bhavat nordhvam natiriyagamam. Nodana vishesha abhavat now urdhvam natiriyagamam. No motion either upward or downward is going to happen if there is no force, nodana, special force. Nodana vishesha abhavat, special force not existing, no motion will happen. That means a fall, free fall is also happening due to a force, and that is gravity. So he knew that there is a force called gravity which is causing this fall, and it is a special force, and he has explained force and acceleration. Prayatna vishesha, nodana vishesha, with greater effort, greater prayatna, greater force, and nodana vishesha, udamana vishesha, greater force leads to greater speed. What is greater speed? Acceleration. So force due to acceleration. Force is proportional to acceleration. F is equal to ma. So one by one, I have inferred all the laws of motion, Newton's laws, and then of course varieties of motion. Explosive motion. And trune karma vayu samyoga, vibratory motion, like say in a grass blade due to vayu samyoga. Manigamanam suchya visarpanam adrushtakanam. Manigamanam, that is crystal motion, and magnetic needle motion with a unseen cause. So nodana bhavat, nordhana already we have covered. Now I'll cover ballistic motion. Nodhanadja karma tat karma karita cha samskarad uttaram karma. Suppose ishav yugapat samyoga bhava sarmanyatve hetuhu. There is an arrow which is taken in a bow, and the bow is releasing the arrow. Ishav yugapat karmanyatve hetuhu. So the first force, nodana adja karma, due to the first motion, that karma karita cha samskarat. For having performed that motion, it acquires a samskara. Samskara, uttaram karma, due to that samskara, it further motion, and so on. Until the end of samskara bhave gurutvat patanam. So when there is no more samskara, it falls down by gurutva, free fall. So this is ballistic motion. That so-called samskara is nothing but our kinetic energy. So he has explained ballistic motion in our 8th class books, you can find it. And motion in solids, nodana abhigata samyukta samyoga cha prithvivyam karma. Motions in solids comes due to either application of force, nodana abhigata, impact, or samyukta samyoga, or due to a chemical combustion like explosion. It will explode without external force. And also by the dishedad adrushtakāridam. Liquid state properties, apam samyoga bhave gurutvat patanam. Even liquids, if they don't have any contact, they will fall down due to gurutva. Dravatvat syandaram. Liquids have viscous flow because of liquidity, dravatva. And nadyo vayu samyogad arohanam. If liquid or water, if it is coming in contact with vayu, there will be evaporation. Nodana pidanat samyukta samyogat cha. That evaporation can happen either due to a force or due to removal of pressure. Apidanat, Boyle's law. The osmotic force is coming due to an unseen force. Osmotic pressure also is explained. And now, apam sanghato vilanancha tejas samyogat, condensation and decomposition of water in the clouds. Tatra vispurjaturlingam, that indicative proof or characteristic is the lightning. So in presence of lightning, there is formation of water, and there will be decomposition of water if you pass vidyut into water. Vaidikancha, it is also expressed in the Veda. Where is it expressed in the Veda? Apams Garbho Soshadhinam, Garbho Vanaspatinam, Bhutasya Vishwasya, Agne Garbho Apamasi. O Agni, you are in the Garbha of Apa, in addition to whole universe. Garbhosi, Oshadhinam in the plants, Vanaspatinam, Vishwasya, Bhutasya, Agne Garbho Apamasi. You are in the womb of water. That means when Agni goes into the water, it will decompose. Apam Samyoga, Vibhaga, Stanayitno. The Samyoga, the composition and decomposition, Vinayatvacha, Stanayitno, passing of electric current. So, Prithvivyam Karma Teja Karma Vayu Karma Vyakhyatam. So, these are all the various Vaiseshika sutras. It goes on and on and on. So, I am happy to share my understanding of Vaiseshika Darshana and Nyaya Darshana with you today. Let us start any discussion or question answer session. Thank you.
ధన్యవాదములండి ప్రభు గారు. Now anybody has queries, please put it on the chat box. Babu garu, can you take on one by one?
Yeah. The first question is, where magnetism of Earth is contained in which literature? Magnetism of Earth.
So in Vaiseshika, magnetism is referred as it's called Suchi Abhisarpana, magnetic needle moving. Whereas other Shastras, there are many Shastras. I am referring only to Vaiseshika today. Magnetism of Earth and even the Earth core and the constituents of Earth core, they are all described in many other Shastras. In fact, the effect of planets on the formation of metals, metallization process in the geophysics is also described. In fact, in the Viman Shastra, we'll be having a session on it. There are many other Shastras are being quoted. Lohadhikaranam, Loha Shastras and others, where the earth contents are being discussed. But magnetism was recognized as electricity was also recognized. Next.
Yeah. Can we prove Atma by logic? How?
Yeah, they have done it in Vaiseshika and Nyaya also. So, observer, if the observer is not there, no observation can take place. If you are not there, you cannot ask this question or you cannot observe my statements. So, the entire physics is based on observation. So, the observer has to pre-exist the observed objects. If the observer does not exist, observation cannot take place. Observer cannot observe if he does not exist. So I exist, that itself is the proof of the observer. Any observation, any physical observation is presupposing the existence of the observer. So the observer is Atman, self, I, pure consciousness. So in quantum physics, observer is accepted, and relativity also, everything is based on observer. Next.
Sir, I am humbled by the efforts that you have taken to bring out this knowledge. What, according to you, are the further areas of research in the physical sciences or astronomy based on Vedic Sahitya?
Yeah, good question. There are many books available on the astronomy and astrophysics. For example, what is the effect of planets on Earth? Not known in modern science, but it is well understood in ancient Sanskrit texts. So whether there is any effect of planets on any item on Earth, and even the creation of Earth, during the creation of Earth, how the metals have formed, why iron, copper, zinc, etc. have formed under the Earth crust, under the influence of which planet. All these are given in various texts. Around 100 texts are referred in the Viman Shastra itself. On the day of Viman Shastra, I will explain some of those things. So the Jyotish Shastra texts are there, and then the Loha Shastra texts are there, and the layers of Earth crust and the various metallization process and mineral ores, extraction of the metals from mineral ores, all this have been given extraordinarily in the Vimarshas. And they are all there in the Ayurveda also. So they're all connected. For example, if you take mica, mica is used in Ayurveda in a big way. And 4 categories for mica are given. Whereas in the Viman Shastra referred text, 16 categories are given. What means more ancient times you go, the more advanced the science and technology was. We'll come back to this question in the Viman Shastra session. Next.
Please elaborate the difference between logical and physical interpretation.
Physical means those which are observed with the eyes, ears, 5 senses. Logical means no need for observation, but you perform deduction, analysis, whether something is true or false. Suppose you say it is dark. So it is required to be observed. It cannot be made a logical statement. But logical statement you can say, if it is dark, how do you know it is dark, or how do you know it is not dark, or can you see anything? So this kind of questions, logical analysis based on questions. So now the Nyaya Shastra is totally logical analysis. It's based upon observation, inference, referential knowledge, and example. Upamana is example, similarity. Only 4 pramanas are accepted. Whereas in Vaiseshika, which is a physical science, the dravya, substances, are Prithvi, Apasti, are considered as dravyas. So it is a different model of science which works, on which basis Ayurveda works for the last 5,000-10,000 years. At Shilpa Shastra, the engineering, construction of temples, all those things work. They have not studied modern science. They are based on the ancient science textbooks, ancient textbooks. So that itself is a proof how Ayurveda works, how the temples have been built without studying strength of materials, differential calculus, all these modern subjects, how they are working. That means they know this in a different way, in a different model. So that is what is our ancient sciences, or all this Vaiseshika onwards, all the other topics. Next.
How many types of darshanas and what is its vyavaharika use?
What is it? Say again.
How many types of darshanas and what is its vyavaharika use?
See, Vyavaharika use means, if you ask me how to travel on the road, Darshanas will not come into picture. But Darshanas become the basis for medicine, Ayurveda, and engineering, construction, or any other engineering. Laws of physics are the basis for mechanical engineering. And laws of physics are also based for electronics and telecommunication engineering, which we are using in this device, without which. So Darshana, the physics, is very much in use in Vyavahara. So you shouldn't have asked that question. You should have had this common sense. Next.
Last year's Nobel Prize is given to a scientist group who effectively proved world is not real. Any comments?
Yes, that's what Jagan Mithya, Brahma Satyam. What is Mayavada? As these people are telling as if they found a new thing. But it is there for thousands of years in our text. This is my view. Next.
Any specific course just related to physics concepts covering centuries of knowledge in Sanatana Dharma?
Yeah, we can offer that such a course based on our Vaiseshika Darshana at my book. There is no other book available on this subject. We can offer such a course, we can plan. Right now, there is no such course. Next.
That's the end of the questions.
Thank you, Chala Chittibabu Garu and Prabhu Garu. Thank you for the rapid fire session.
Yeah, there is one question. Paroksha Jnana jnana is sabda jnana in Mimamsa?
What is
Is
it?
it-
Say again.
Paroksha jnana is sabda jnana in Mimamsa. It's a statement that they are making. That's it. I mean, it's not a question. Is it correct?
That is okay. That is Mimamsa. Mimamsa is quite independent.
Yeah.
Is it correct? Yes, that's
Yeah.
correct. Pratyaksha and Paroksha.
Yeah.
So Pratyaksha is you are able to see or hear yourself. Paroksha, what it means is that you are not able to see or yourself. Veda is telling about Brahman. Shruti is telling you're not you're not experienced. That is Paroksha. So that is correct statement. Within the Mimamsa, each darshana is having its own boundaries, and sometimes they interact with each other also. Like in Vaiseshika also, there are some sutras pertaining to Yoga Darshana. Atmastha Yoga. Yoga is defined as being established in your own self. And like this, similarly, between Nyaya and Vaiseshika, there is too much of commonality. All the pramanas are same. Pratyaksha, Anumana, all pramanas, and also the Samanya, Visesha, Samavaya relationships. They are same between Nyaya and Vaiseshika. And similarly, between Sankhya and Yoga, it is the same. The Prakriti Purusha Tattva is same. Only Yoga is known as Seshwara Sankhya because Ishvara is added in Yoga. And similarly, between Mimamsa and Vedanta, Purva Mimamsa and Uttara Mimamsa. So it starts with Purva Mimamsa and goes to Uttara Mimamsa. Tomorrow we'll discuss that. I mean, Monday.
There is one question again. What is the subtle difference between Nyaya Shastra and a Tarka Shastra?
No, both are same. Both are same.
I think that's the end of the question.
Anybody wants to interact verbally? Raise your hand. If not, then thank you, Prabhu Garu. And tomorrow, Monday, we'll meet again for the last session on Darshanas. Now, let us chant Prarthana. Request Satyaji.
Yes, sure. स्वस्ति प्रजाभ्यः परिपालयन्तां न्यायेन मार्गेण महिषाः गोब्राह्मणेभ्यः शुभमस्तु नित्यं लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु काले वर्षतु पर्जन्यः पृथिवी सस्यशालिनी देशोऽयं क्षोभरहितो ब्राह्मणाः सन्तु निर्भयाः अपुत्रा पुत्रिणः सन्तु पौत्रिणः अधनाः सधनाः सन्तु जीवन्तु शरदां शतं सत्यं वद धर्मं चर स्वाध्यायान् मा प्रमदः सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः पूर्णमद पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः सर्वे जना सुखिनो भवन्तु लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु स्वस्ति
Dhanyawad. Now, let us recite national anthem. Challa Chitbabu Garu. We'll all stand up and sing along with him.
जनगण अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंधु गुजरात मराठा द्राविड़ उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्छल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे, गाहे तव जय गाथा। जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे, भारत भाग्य विधाता। जय हे, जय हे, जय हे, जय 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 हे, जय हे,
जय
जय
हिंद।
हे।
ధన్యవాదములండి చల్లా చిట్టిబాబు గారు.